I guess we could do it as like a whole like review of like the first episode from start to finish. So we'd start off talking about the intro. Actually, I was um reading on Twitter about like mixed feelings about the intro
Mm-hmm.
because usually the fan base they're used to like that Sasagio song, right?
Yeah, right.
And then for like the studio changed, and then like the intro being completely different than what usually you would see in the series.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that are like, oh no, this is going the wrong way. Oh no, the it's not gonna go well, etc etc.
Just by the intro?
Yeah, just by the intro.
But the
Damn.
intro's good. I love the
Yeah.
intro.
Yeah, the intro's good. It's different, but like for the final season of a show, it's like, yeah, I have no
Yeah,
complaints.
it was really nice. The fucking visuals are insane.
It's literally the one thing about the show so far that I'm like in love with. Like everything
Um,
else I either just slightly like or I'm just disappointed by.
Honestly,
okay. There was a tweet by the anime man, right? He was like
Yeah.
this. He was like quoting people that about the first episode of the Attack on Titan final season, and the quotes were, "This opening doesn't sound like Attack on Titan. It's glorifying war a little too much. It's not the same without the same studio." And then you just have a
Uh-oh.
picture. You just have a picture of like a guy just shoving a face of a girl.
Oh, that's so stupid. That's so fucking stupid. The entire show is about war.
Exactly.
Like the entire show. It's about like the end of humanity as we know it. Like, what are you talking about?
And that's the thing. I mean, change, especially with the change and then the time skip, a lot of fans don't really want to see that type of like change, like that big step forward into like uh a new fucking era basically for the series.
I mean, like studio changes usually mean that the show is going to change in a way that doesn't benefit the original series. But there have been times where it has worked. There have been times where it's hasn't been so noticeable. And I mean, it could have been a lot worse than what it was for the past two episodes. Like we could have had some really bad no no, we could have had some really awful characters, some really bad story choices, but for most part it's just safe for now. So it's
Yeah.
not yeah, I don't know. I don't think
Plus
it's
pl-
necessarily the worst choice.
plus all the characters that would have been bad already died, so
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So yeah, it's I don't know.
So what are you guys' thoughts on the intro?
I love it. I think it's really colorful. The song's pretty good. I like how I haven't listened to it in a while, but they add some really cool like there's like some cool uh almost like electronic elements to the song if you like
Oh
if
yeah,
you
I could.
hear properly. Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Like there's something there that I really like. Yeah, I mean it's pretty simplistic, but it goes for the punch. I like it a lot.
no, yeah, I really like the intro. Honestly, best intro out of all of them.
Yeah, I
What
mean
do you find so interesting compared to like the other ones?
Like the other ones were kind of like a song. This one's just kind of like I don't know. It's just
it's a really cool
it
visualizer.
kind of like it's a really cool visualizer. It kind of like builds up to the last part of the opening, which is like literally just them chanting war with a bunch of dead bodies and like rain.
Oh
It's all
yeah.
gray.
Oh,
I think those are really cool scenes and stuff.
is that what that tweet meant by it's glorifying war a little
Yeah,
too
yeah,
much? Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
god, that's so
Probably.
fucking
Yeah.
stupid.
One of my favorite things about the intro is the fact that it doesn't really spoil anything leading to the season, because you know how like
I
you
wish I
usually.
wish it spoiled it. That
I
way
mean,
I know the rest of the season's good. Yeah, just kidding.
Yeah, you'd know if it's like
That way
dog.
the rest of the season's good. I
You'd
know
be like,
that.
yeah.
no surprises. Understandable.
Yeah, but now it's just like, oh, I have to painstakingly watch every episode to know if it's bad
I
or
have to
good.
watch a show that I love.
Right.
Fuck, that
Fuck.
sucks.
Shit.
Yeah. No, but like you see like all these other animes, and like when you watch them, usually the intro already has a bunch of stuff that's gonna happen
Oh my god, yeah.
leading up to whatever the season is. And like compared to
Yeah.
this one, maybe they like show subtle hints, and like more so just like visual metaphors, I guess.
I guess I
Yeah,
could see
pretty
that.
much. That's
Um
pretty much what it is.
yeah, the intro, it's not my favorite intro, but like yeah, it leaves everything up to mystery. I don't think it's really trying to it's really just trying to end off the series in a way where it's like it's not leading up to anything in the intro, it's just this is the end. And like I like it for that reason. It's not my favorite. I think the season 2 one is still better cuz I like the visuals in that
Okay, yeah.
slightly more. Yeah, of course, and the song's incredible, but this one's pretty good too. Definitely my second favorite.
I think it's my favorite. Like close second being the second season's opening.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I just really like the visuals. I really like the super kind of like what is it, low key, like I don't know what to call it, song, I guess. It's not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
a song either. It's just kind of like a melody. I don't
Yeah,
even know
pretty
if that's the right
much.
word for it.
It's almost like a reprise, but I don't know what it's reprising necessarily. I think it's just kind of its own song, but it feels like it's a song we've heard before, just done in a different style.
Well, yeah, your thoughts on the new characters that were introduced at the first episode. So we have
Are we mainly talking about that like the four, like the four, like the
V4,
younger?
V4.
Oh, the
So
four.
because okay, so we have Falco, we have Gabby, we
We
have
have Udo.
Zophie, and yeah, that guy,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
glasses kid. Your thoughts on them being introduced at the first episode?
Oh man. I okay, so in the first episode, I think Gabby really rubbed me the wrong way. Like I remember when we first watched it, it was like she was the one that was really grinding my gears. The other characters didn't necessarily do that and I didn't have any complaints with them necessarily. But as I watched the second episode, it's like it's kind of the opposite things happened. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah,
I think that Gabby could potentially be a like a good character in this series, someone that we could actually like, thrive, like see thrive and grow within the show, or even just I don't
Yeah,
know, completely change. Whereas I cannot see that for anybody else.
I agree. I would say Gabby's probably my favorite character out of all four of them,
Which yet again,
personally.
yeah, it's so shocking because like I remember in that first episode when like she had that like not a monologue, but like she was talking to that superior
the
officer and she was like,
Kind of like a
you know,
bitch.
yeah, like she was talking in a way where I was like, "Oh my god, you're really sucking yourself off here." Like just
yeah.
in that way. But now in context, giving it some time, that stuff's a little more excusable. So like I favor that stuff
Yeah,
a
because
little more.
let's be honest, she feels like the only actual character that they've added.
Yeah,
Because
it's
Yeah,
like Falco, he just I don't know, it doesn't feel natural to me.
Falco's
Just kind
biggest
of
problem is like his whole character is it's like super one dimensional. Like
yeah,
he
pretty
thrives
much.
specifically to make other like to help others. And I mean that's fine as a secondary trait, but if that's your first and you're supposed to be a new main protagonist in the show, like you've lost me
yeah.
because that's like every single protagonist ever.
Yeah, with how Falco is being like portrayed, it just seems too forced for him, like him being forced into a main character role
Right,
compared to
exactly.
like Gabby, where you already seen her as like super outgoing. She knows what her tasks are, and she'll accomplish anything to, or she'll do anything to accomplish
I
that.
mean, if we're talking about the other two characters, I think Udo probably has the most potential to like really bring
Yeah.
something else. But yet again, his character is pretty one note too, but not in a way where
I'm
it's distracting.
angry. I hate everything.
Yeah, Gurr.
Is- I guess that's his personality. What's the other
Yeah,
His
girl? What?
personality is Gurr, and then there's Zophie,
Sophie.
who like genuinely
Sophia.
has not said a single line. She's maybe said a couple, but like I can't think of a single characteristic or attribute that she holds. She just is very boring.
I guess the only attribute we know about with Sophie is the fact that she's quiet, and she's just there to be there.
She kind of takes on Annie's role, like for instance, with that second episode, how she turns into Annie and Reiner's like weird what is it, hallucination? Is that a good way to
Yeah,
describe it?
yeah,
Or just
yeah.
like a
From
vision?
episode 2, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like in that sense, I could see where they're going with this character, but honestly, if they don't kill her off, like I don't know what they're gonna do with her.
Yeah, if they don't kill her off, I'll be disappointed. Just get
Yeah,
rid of all the useless
it's
characters, honestly, at
it's
this
just
point.
gonna be
Just
a bummer.
So Reiner makes an appearance towards the end, and that's when they start storming into whatever the place they're trying to capture, right?
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on those beast titans coming down and then the fight scene and animation?
Oh god, that was
CGI was bad. Terrible. I think that's not a surprise to anyone.
Oh, are we talking
Actually,
like specifically with the Armor Titan, Lorenzo, or just like all of them?
well, he said all the Beast Titan stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It,
you have the one small guy with the mask titan. I forgot what that's called. Obviously
Mask
from the
Titan.
yeah, I guess from the trailer, you also had the titan carrying um like a fucking
The
big
tank thing
the tank
guns. The
thing pretty
tank
much.
guns.
Yeah, you have that titan as well. Um and then you saw Zeke and Reiner in the plane or whatever, and then dropping down with a bunch of the other titans, pretty much massacring the whole city.
The actual Titans, like the non person controlled Titans, were pretty cool. I think those were like cool when they just fucking dropped them. But Reiner and Zeke, they could have put a little more budget into it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
It
yeah.
looked kind of shitty, not gonna
what
lie.
one of the main things I saw in the episode was how they tried to make the CGI subtle, but at a certain point there was like no
Oh, it was
subtle.
not subtle.
It was
It
not
was not
subtle
subtle.
at all in some scenes.
Yeah,
I would say that's like the least subtle CGI of all of Attack on Titan. It was so
There
obvious.
are other scenes where they use CGI with the Beast Titans, and I kind of saw it. But like the main scenes where like they're actually like getting shot at, or like they're fighting, and when he drops down, I mean it was cool, but then I don't know. It's just it feels clunky, feels weird to look at.
I think, yeah, I actually really like that scene where they're dropping Titans on when they finally like they
Yeah,
get rid of the what is it? Those armored anti-Titan vehicles. Once they finally drop down the Titans onto that entire battlefield, that was like a holy shit. Like that's kind of
yeah.
awesome kind of
I
like
really did
moment.
like the scene, but like once they started dropping like I said, the people controlled one, it's just like it just looked shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Looked bad. Did not
especially
look good.
like with Zeke's, like it's more okay because it's a much smaller Titan, so it's just moving around a lot. So it's not as easy to see a lot of the weird CGI flaws. But with Reiner's armored Titan, it's so fucking obvious. Like
It is pretty obvious.
There was one scene where after he jumped down, he immediately grabbed onto the wall and started like running with it. And just that scene alone just felt so weird to watch.
oh god, I actually remember exactly which scene that
I
is.
also remember that
It,
scene,
it was
and
it was
it
like
was CGI.
it was a super small CGI scene, and the outlining for the character made it
Oh, it was
so
awful.
weird.
Like outlining your anime characters like when it comes to CGI is like so important to whether or not it looks good and doesn't, and it looked kind of like a PS3 game.
Yeah, I could
Like it
yeah.
was it was also so choppy. It wasn't like very it didn't flow very well. It's like as soon as it went to like a stand hold in terms of like it like for instance Reiner moving his head slightly, it's like the frame rate just went down, and yeah, that made it even more
Yeah.
obvious. Just one note, it did remind me a lot of the Berserk like redo, like the CGI one.
Oh, yeah, no, I see
I
that.
haven't watched that, so I've seen a little bit of the clip, so I know what you're talking about,
Yeah,
but
you've seen what it looks like.
kind of, yeah, I
Yeah, it
guess.
looks somewhat like that, just the armored titan, and it's really distracting, like it was in Berserk.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's much about that's
That's
pretty much it.
that's pretty much it. I mean, we may as well just say what are we giving it out of a vibe? Like, what's the vibe of this episode?
I rate this episode a 3 out of 5. The first
Yeah,
one.
I agree with Julius. I think that like when I think about it more, there's stuff I like less, there's stuff I like a little more because of the second episode. But yeah, it pretty much just equals out at a 3 out of 5 again because it's like okay.
Are
Yeah,
you
it's
looking at
okay.
it with the episode 2 in context
No,
or
with
without it in
one
Now,
without it.
context?
well, you can do
Without
it.
it in
You
context?
can do it without it, but I think now that we've seen it, you can't really take it out of
Okay.
context.
Okay. How about this? 2 without episodes 2 context. And with episodes 2 context, probably a 2 out of 5,
Okay,
I
so
think.
yeah,
Oh.
you're generally more negative than me and Julius are about this first episode.
I didn't like it that much. It was kind of boring.
That's very fair. I mean, it is kind of boring, but it's at least like I think it's much better than the second episode in terms of like what
Really?
goes on. Because at least there's
Yeah.
like a war happening, whereas the second episode is just like people talking in rooms for like 20 minutes. Like, whoa, that's
I
Yeah,
would
like
agree
awesome.
with you on that, but if we're going to the fact that the episode 1 had a quote unquote war, I say quote unquote because
Pretty
if you
lackluster.
remember the first episode, it didn't really there wasn't a lot of kind of like war stuff going on. Like maybe yeah, there was like a couple of machine guns in a bunker and then titans and a couple of
There
cannons
were
and then a
no enemy
train.
troops.
There was no enemy troops, there was no friendly troops. It was like 10v10. I
Yeah,
would barely call it a war. The only warlike part of it were the
oh,
trains, cannons, and the ships.
yeah.
And I guess the titans.
I
There was
wish
like
what they
almost no actual soldiers involved.
Oh my goodness. I wish what they did now that I think about it is like they could have both of these things like they had both of these episodes work if they condensed it into one episode. Like make the first like 5 to 7 minutes this little war thing that happens. Like you can start it off with like the Titans being launched from the sky and then later on you can have like more of the talking stuff. The fact that it's 2 episodes is nuts. It's like so much padding. Like I agree with Lorenzo because there's so few actual troops left on the battlefield and it would be fine if like yeah it was clearly near the end of that battle anyways but there aren't a lot of corpses on the ground. It's a very isolate place. Like at most there were like 100 people on that battlefield, like
Yeah.
at
Not only
most.
yeah, not only that, but they also presented this war kind of like in like it's like the end of like fucking World War II kind of thing. Like, oh yeah,
Right,
after we beat this war, it's world peace. Let's go. Except it seemed pretty small, not gonna lie.
it was
Didn't
such
seem
a
like a very
small
big battle at
victory.
all.
Yeah, like
So
there
like
was
it was such a small battle for like the result they're getting from it. It did not feel
the
like an
stakes
actual war
the
or battle to
stakes
me at all. It
seemed
just
so
was not
high.
very good.
Yeah, the stakes seem so high for something that like for such a non-starter of a battle. Like
Yeah.
I like the consequences seem like they're not there, but they want to imply that they're there. So it's like, oh, we won this,
Yeah.
big job. And like they have that scene on the train in the second episode, which I like. I like that scene.
Oh, that's
But
a good scene. That's probably in my opinion the best scene out of
it
episode 2
it
was
honestly
the train scene.
Right. It feels like something that isn't earned, though. It's a nice scene, but because of how little of the battle there actually was in the first episode, it seems almost weird that they're celebrating like this.
Oh, even with the context of episode 1, I still think that train scene's the best scene of
Oh,
episode
it's
2.
still a good scene. It
It's
just,
literally
the
the
first episode
least
does not help.
boring. Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. I think if anything, that scene actually is a detriment to episode 1 because
Yeah.
it's just like, wow, okay, cool. You great.
Yeah, I
That's
tot I
it.
to I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm slightly more positive on it still, but I feel like if the 3rd episode is, like, gonna be a massive dud, like, the both of these are gonna get dropped down at least a good point or 2. Like, I'm holding optimism with the 3 out of 5 here.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, and Lorenzo's just being, like, very cutthroat with it, just I mean,
I mean,
Lorenzo will
I
probably
feel
be
like
the
you
one
kind of
who
have to be cutthroat about it because, like, we don't have the context of the other seasons, so I can't really feel like I can give it, the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh yeah, maybe the episodes get better later on in the season with the context of everything else because we don't
Yeah.
have the context of everything else. So I don't feel like it's fair to give it an extra point just because it might be better
Well,
later
here's
on
well, no,
with
no, no.
with other context.
So my point I'm trying to get across is I still liked both of these episodes in hindsight. It's just if there isn't anything that they build up to that's of worth, then both these episodes are worse. Because as building blocks, they're all right, but as standalone episodes in the grander scheme, if they hold up, that's due to what happens later.
Yeah, I could agree on
Yeah,
that.
that's fair. That's fair. I
But
don't know. I'm still sticking with my 2 out of 5 though.
I would give it a 3 out of 5. I think that there are elements to it that I like. I think that specific scenes, such as when the Titans are falling down from the plane for the first time, is a great scene. I like the music in it. I love. I think the art stuff for the most part is good. However, like there's a lot of flaws in it as well. I think it's kind of a non-starter of a battle. There's nothing that interesting in terms of what's going on besides some specific scenes. Seems like a barren warfield. Um, and I think that the characters, especially Gabby in this first episode, are just painfully mediocre.
I would rate the vibe of the first episode a 3 out of 5 vibe. Overall, what they showed us in the first episode with like no context might seem like a
Was
bit
rad and
weird.
cool.
Yeah, it might be weird at first, but honestly, it just get it like with the context of the second episode, it gets me hyped to see what happens next. And yeah, they use like a bunch of CGI for some of the Titans in the first scene, but I feel like that's to compensate for the amount of like production they put into like future scenes where it could be literally one of the best fight scenes in anime history.
So
But
is
Yes,
there anything else
sir.
we need to discuss in the podcast?
no, that's it. I guess we
All
move
right.
on to the
No.
next
Word
episode.
up.
All right, next episode.